So, like we started SmartCoin, with the mission of enabling access to credit for the what we call as emerging India, right? So when we say emerging India, we are talking of your micro entrepreneur base consisting of your small shopkeepers, people who are running, small businesses from their home, or I think small setups, or people who are working in the gig economy, right? Someone who is, say, driving his own car on Ola or Uber, or working as a delivery boy with any of the platforms. Or, I mean, today, obviously, with big platforms, it's obviously expanding across different employment sections. And obviously, then there is a huge chunk which is in the middle and lower income salaried segment. Right. So this is the segment which is obviously, comprises the largest size in the Indian population pyramid, right? So we are talking of roughly half the population, almost, 400, 500 million people belonging to this segment. And what was striking, when we're starting out is like less than 10% of India, I think, gets access to almost 80% of formal credit. Right. Leaving majority of our population, vulnerable to the informal lenders, or, in most scenarios, no viable options at all, right? So what we do, we are working to enable or open doors to formal credit for these segments. The way we operate is at the intersection of two major areas. One obviously is the segment that we are trying to serve. The reason that they don't get served is obviously multifold, but I think majorly stems from the same thing, right? The problem is majority of these guys are earning a volatile income, relatively lower income, and that too quite volatile in nature, right? On top of it, they won't have, your typical work proofs, pay slips, income proofs, right? Which is always required to showcase, how you're earning, how will your potential be in the future. And that also leads to sort of a catch-22 situation on the bureau side. Because all the banks and NBFCs today judge your intent to repay through your bureau scores. Problem is, to build a good bureau score, you need to take some loans, repay them well. To get a loan, you need a good bureau score, right? So now these guys are stuck in the chicken and egg loop, right? So they're never able to come out of it. And what we are doing, that's the second exercise I talked about, is how do we use alternate data to bridge through these gaps in traditional data availability and make credit available to them. So this is where we operate. The way we operate is pretty simple. So we have simplified the whole process immensely. So we have a mobile app available on Google Play Store. Anyone can download it. We have digitized the entire process to make it 100% automated and completely end-to-end digital. So people can download the app, complete the application right through that, and get money directly to their bank account. There is no paperwork. Process is also pretty simple because it's completely automated. So the entire process takes roughly a few minutes to a few hours. That's it, right? So on the front end for the customer, it's obviously very simple, very intuitive. The majority of the magic obviously happens behind the scenes, right? Because these guys don't have traditional data. So how do you now use alternate data? What is useful? What is not? How do you figure their credit behavior? How do you decide, what should be the right product for them? So that's where I think the entire in-house technology that we have built, I think, comes into the picture. But yeah, so I think this is how it operates. We provide smaller loans because, again, microloans is the area which banks don't serve. Naturally, because they have also bandwidth issues, also the underwriting is manual, so it's very difficult for them to focus, on the small ticket needs. Yeah. And this is where, interestingly, we saw majority of demand, right? When we are talking of people, who are earning 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 rupees a month, they don't need lakhs of rupees every now and then, but what they need is, because they don't have much of a saving cushion, is say a small 10,000 rupee loan, just to get, say, a new inventory for his shop. Or a delivery boy needs, say, only 2,000 rupees just to get petrol in his bike and, carry on his business for the rest of the day. Yes. Or someone needs, say, 5,000 or 20,000 rupees to just get a medical procedure done, right? So that's an area which was completely overlooked. Traditionally, what people will do, they'll borrow from their families, their friends, and, basically sort of informal, or like much worse is obviously the local lenders, right? Correct. Will charge anything, take your property as collateral, and, do all sort of funky things. So that's where we operate. We give loans starting from as low as $1,000, going up to a lakh. A tenor starts again from as low as 2 months, going up to 12 months plus, which gives us a lot of flexibility to our customers. And yeah, so I think that's how we are trying to serve this base.
Okay. Can you take us through the size of your loan book and say customer numbers? Also, perhaps your growth story or growth rate, how you've been scaling up.
Sure. So, like we have been now operating, for over 4 years now, and it's been, I think, quite a journey. When we started out, like I still remember, right? Like in early days when we were talking to investors or even lenders,
Okay.
and we told them, right, that now India is going through a major inflection point. And today, while this huge segment, everyone understands the opportunity, right? But people are like, how do we underwrite them? They don't have any data. And when we said that these guys are now coming onto smartphones, even in lower sections of the population, even in rural areas, right? And can you use their data to underwrite them? While it sounds good in practice, obviously, we had no precedent of this.
Right.
And when we said, we will start out, we'll give loans across Pan India to these sections without any collateral, I think it raised eyebrows. And, so obviously, I think we have gone through that entire path. Right. Also building, furthering our conviction through like as we grew, right?
Right.
So we have seen, I think, quite a pleasant, surprising stories and learnings as well on the way. Today, our mobile app boasts of close to 60 lakh users across India.
Okay.
Across the length and breadth of it, we have given over 1 million loans. I think close to 15 lakh loans now.
Okay.
Across again the entire length and breadth of India. So we have given loans in all the states, and I think almost all the union territories, including the likes of Andaman Nicobar or Daman Diu or like as far as Jammu Kashmir, Arunachal Pradesh, like we have pretty much served everywhere. In fact, we have given now I think we have served more than 17,000 pin codes out of a total of around 21,000 pin codes in India. So that should give you an idea of like how humongous this is. And the fact is, we still operate from a single office in Bangalore. We don't have any branches. We don't have any agents anywhere, right? So I think it's been quite remarkable on that front. We have disbursed over 600 CR in terms of total loan amounts across these geographies. So yeah, I think it's been quite commendable. Last year, obviously, with COVID, I think it was quite an interesting point. I think we will talk about, I think the outcome of it. But I think the great thing is we have continued to grow immensely. Over the last 2 quarters, we have been growing over 20% month on month. So now we've already crossed up pre-COVID, and I think, we will be doubling those volumes in the next few months. So yeah, I think things have taken a pretty good shape.
Okay. So, what's the rate of interest you charge? Can that be disclosed?
Yeah, sure. So, like we are quite transparent on that, with the users as well. So we charge roughly between 2 to 3% per month. Okay. So, for instance, if say user has taken a 10,000 rupee loan,
right,
then it means that he will have to pay say 200 to 300 rupees interest on this loan every month. And as I said, because the tenors are relatively shorter than the market, obviously with the broad range, right? So, I mean, if it's a 2-month loan, then say you pay 200 rupees interest for the first month, and say you repay half the principal, so then interest is only applied on the reducing principal, right?
Right.
That will also go down on the next month. It's only say going to be 100 rupees. But yeah, so I think interest is relatively quite affordable, and I think pretty simple.
Yeah.
For a user.
Okay. 1 minute now. You mentioned your amazing reach. Now, frankly, looking at that reach, I might say you're doing better than some private sector banks also. I don't think they have that kind of pan-India reach, to go into Andaman and Nicobar. So any plans to tie up with other MFIs at all, or mutual microfinance institutions? Especially since you probably have an edge in this digital area. Is there any aspect where, you feel somebody with a physical presence can give you more reach or something? Is that on the cards? Have you been looking at it?
Right. So, see, I think the first thing which you rightly mentioned, but I think like the credit also goes to, how the government, the regulators, and how the entire ecosystem has come together, right? To make sure that, say, someone even in Andaman is now actually, connected to the rest of the country and is demanding the same set of products, the same access, that say someone sitting in Mumbai or Delhi is doing, right? And that is something which is unimaginable, right? Even a few years back.
Correct.
So now, to be honest, it surprised us as well, like in the beginning, while we always had that vision, But like I remember very early on when I discovered, there's this particular customer from a place called, I think, Jangli Ghat, I think, which is almost 150 kilometers from Port Blair. It's not even in Port Blair,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So it's even smaller than that. And this guy runs a hotel over there. And then they discovers the app, and then, basically he uses this loan to repay and like basically get access to better quality credit in his life.
Right.
So I think while we were trying to understand more of this person, I think the fact was it was obviously very difficult for us to collect the money as well. Like in case he could not pay, right? I'm not going to take a flight and go there.
Right.
But I think the key learning for us out of all these experiments was that people today, like in India, are very aspirational. They are looking for the right avenues to, solve for the gap in their financial lives and, aspire for creating a better life for themselves. And so if you give them the right service, you can build that trust and you can actually create a win-win scenario for both, right?
Yeah.
So I think digitization and reach, I think, is a consequence of, I think how the country is progressing as a whole. And we are just using technology in a better way to make sure we are able to amplify that. Okay. On your second part about partnerships, so we are obviously looking at, I think, partnering with the right institutions in the future. Like when we begin, right, again, because we were taking a very different approach. Like, as I said, we were creating a completely data-driven engine. We were saying that, you don't need to traditionally look at, say, only bank statements and pay slips or, credit bureau scores to give a loan to someone, right? I mean, there is a lot of other data which can also give you much better indication on their borrowing profiles. And I think those things take time to understand. Now, obviously, we are in a place where we have given over 1 million loans. We have a very successful track record. So now when we talk to, a lot of large traditional lenders, so it's very relatively easier. Like, I wouldn't say very easy, but still it's far easier, right? They understand, okay, how it's worked, why it worked. And I think one great thing because of COVID is that I think like banking is a relatively far more regulated sector, right? So implementing changes takes more time than compared to other sectors.
Yes.
Because obviously, there's a big compliance, process which you can't just overtake like that. And so that's why the structures also take time to, understand. But because of COVID, the great thing is now I think that scenario has been forced across sectors, including financial services. And so we are seeing far more willingness, I think, on the part of banks and, large MFI lenders to partner with, I think, the right fintechs to further the goal of inclusion. So we are already in active talks, I think, with some banks. In the future, I think you might hear more on that. Like there are obviously multiple aspects to that as well. When you partner, you can partner on capital side, you can partner on acquisition side, you can partner on, I think, collections, underwriting. So there are obviously multiple areas, and we are in conversation with different institutions for this.